My fiancée demanded, "Fire your business partner. I don't like how she looks at you." My partner was my 68-year-old mentor who'd invested her life, savings, in our startup. I said, "Let me consider this." Then I bought out my fiancée's small investment in the company and ended the relationship. I, 32M, am currently sitting in my office, looking at a heavy glass trophy that says Startup of the Year. To my right is a framed photo of my team, and front and center in that picture is my business partner, a 68-year-old woman who is widely considered a legend in our industry. 6 months ago, my then fiancée, 27F, gave me an ultimatum. She told me to fire my partner, destroy her reputation, and kick her out of the company we built together. If I had listened to her, I would be bankrupt right now. Instead, I made a choice that cost me a wedding but bought me my freedom and my company's future. Here is how a jealousy-fueled demand turned into the most satisfying legal beatdown of my life. To understand why this request was so insane, you have to understand the people involved. I founded a tech logistics company about 3 years ago. It's not glamorous work. We basically optimize supply chains for mid-sized manufacturers, but it's incredibly lucrative if you know what you're doing. My partner is 68. She was a VP at a massive global logistics firm back in the 90s, retired, got bored, and decided to get into angel investing. When I met her, I was a broke coder with a slide deck and a dream. She didn't just give me money. She gave me her life savings, her entire contact list, and daily mentorship. She is the first person in the office at 6 a.m. and the last to leave. She is strictly professional, happily married to her husband of 40 years, and she treats me like a promising nephew. There's absolutely zero romantic vibe between us. None. Then there was my ex. We had been together for 2 years. When we met, I was already deep in the stress of the startup phase. She worked in PR and loved the idea of being a founder's wife. She constantly talked about the gala dinners we'd attend when I made it and how she would style me for magazine covers. About a year into the business, we hit a serious cash flow crunch. I was maxed out on credit cards and eating ramen. Ex offered to help. She put in $5,000. Now, I was grateful for the help, but in the grand scheme of our burn rate, $5,000 covered maybe 2 weeks of server costs. It wasn't a company-saving amount, but it was a nice gesture. I wrote up a simple convertible note for her, treating it as a formal investment to protect her interests. That $5,000 changed her completely. Suddenly, she wasn't just my girlfriend. In her head, she was a co-founder. She started updating her LinkedIn to imply she had a role in operations. She'd come into the office unannounced, critique the engineers on their attire, and try to redecorate the conference room. My partner tolerated it with the patience of a saint. She'd just smile that tight-lipped smile and say, "Let's focus on the Q3 goals," whenever X tried to insert herself into high-level strategy meetings. The tension started building about 6 months ago. We were closing our series of funding, which is a huge milestone. The stress was nuclear. I was pulling 18-hour days. My partner and I were in the trenches together. We ate takeout at our desks, flew across the country for pitch meetings, and fell asleep in airport terminals waiting for connecting flights. X hated it. She didn't hate that I was working. She hated who I was working with. She started making snide comments like, "Why does she have to go with you? Can't you take someone else?" I tried to explain that my partner is the CFO and the lead investor, and that the venture capitalists know her name, not mine. It didn't matter. In X's mind, any woman spending time with me was a threat, even if that woman was a grandmother who was teaching me how to read a balance sheet. The breaking point happened at our closing dinner. We had secured the funding verbally and were celebrating the term sheet. It was a massive win. We rented out a private room in a steakhouse. My partner, the lead engineers, and X were there. We raised a glass, and my partner stood up to give a toast. She talked about my grit, my vision, and how proud she was to back me. She got a little emotional because she had put her reputation on the line for me. When she finished, I hugged her, a completely platonic side hug. We didn't embrace. X was silent the entire ride home. The air in the car was so thick you could choke on it. I tried to make small talk, but she just stared out the window. As soon as we walked into our apartment, she exploded. She didn't scream, which was almost scarier. She spoke with this chilling, calm entitlement. She told me I needed to fire my partner. She said she saw how my partner looked at me during the toast, claiming she was crying because she was in love with me. She called it disgusting and said she refused to marry a man who was emotionally married to a geriatric woman. I tried to use logic. I explained that my partner owns 30% of the company and is the reason we have funding. I told her I couldn't just fire a major equity holder. X didn't care. She snapped back that since I was the CEO, I should figure out. She told me to tell my partner we were going a different direction or offer her money to leave. Then she dropped the bomb. I'm an investor too. I have a say in this company. As a shareholder and your future wife, I'm demanding you remove her. She took off her engagement ring, set it on the counter, and said, "Fix it, or this day's off." Then she went to the bedroom and slammed the door. I stood there for a long time, looking at the ring, and then at my phone where my partner had texted me, "Great job tonight. Rest up. We have work to do Monday." I didn't sleep that night. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling. I realized something crucial. This wasn't about jealousy. This was about control. X wanted to isolate me. She wanted to be the only influence in my life, and she was willing to burn down my hard work just to prove she held a leash. The next morning, I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I knocked on the bedroom door. She opened it looking smug, thinking she had won. I told her I needed time because it was a complicated legal maneuver, and I couldn't just fire her on the spot. I said, "Let me consider how to do this." She smiled that predator smile and said, "Good. I knew you'd make the right choice. Take a few days. But I want her gone by Friday." I went straight to the office, walked into my partner's office, and closed the door. I told her everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her about the jealousy, the ultimatum, and the threat. My partner listened, sipping her tea. She didn't get angry. She didn't look hurt. She looked like a general surveying a battlefield. She simply said, "She's a liability, not just to you, but to the company. If we go public, or if we raise Series B, a spouse like that is a risk vector. She thinks she has power she doesn't have." We spent the next 3 days with our corporate counsel reviewing every text, every email, and every document X had ever signed. Here is the beauty of strict corporate governance. When X gave me that $5,000, I was paranoid about equity distribution. I had her sign a standard convertible note. The terms stated that her money was a loan that could convert to equity upon a specific trigger event, like the official closing of a Series A raise. Or B, repaid with interest at the company's discretion prior to conversion. Because X never read the contract she signed, she just liked the idea of signing them. She didn't realize that the company had the absolute right to repay the debt at any time before the formal issuance of stock certificates. And since we hadn't officially signed the final Series A paperwork yet, we were still in the due diligence phase of the closing. She held zero stock. She held the debt. On Thursday, I asked X to come to the office. She sounded thrilled on the phone, asking if it was done and if she was gone. I just told her to come in at 4 p.m. to sign the papers. She showed up dressed to the nines, walking through the office like she owned the place, ignoring the staff she usually terrorized. She walked into the conference room and stopped dead when she saw my partner sitting there. "Why is she here?" X asked, her voice sharp. "I thought you were firing her." I told her to sit down. My voice was flat. She refused, saying she wouldn't sit with her. I told her to sit down or leave and get nothing. She sat, looking confused, waiting for me to pull out the termination letter from my partner. Instead, I slid a check across the table. "What is this?" she asked, staring at the paper. "That is a cashier's check for $5,500. I said, "That represents your principal investment of $5,000 plus 10% interest. The company is exercising its right to repay the note." She looked at the check, then at me, then at the lawyer. "I don't want the money. I want my equity. I own part of this company." Our lawyer interjected calmly. "You don't. You hold a convertible note. Clause 4, Section B allows for pre-conversion repayment. We have repaid you. You are no longer financially affiliated with this entity." Her face went pale, then bright red. "You can't do this." I'm a co-founder. You're not, I said. You're an ex-girlfriend who loaned me money. Ex. She stood up so fast her chair fell over. I'm ending it, I said. I'm not firing my partner. I'm firing you. The explosion was immediate and violent. She swept the papers off the table. She threw a glass of water at the wall, shattering it. She screamed that I chose this old hag over her, that she gave me the best years of her life, and that she supported me when I was nothing. I stood my ground and told her that she tried to blackmail me into destroying my business, and that I was done. She actually lunged at me, but the security guard my partner had wisely hired for the day stepped in and escorted her out. She was screaming obscenities the entire way down the hall. That was just the beginning. I thought the breakup was the hard part, but I was wrong. X didn't go quietly. She went nuclear. First came the social media smear campaign. She posted TikToks and Instagram stories claiming I was abusive. She was smart enough not to allege physical abuse because she knew that was easily disprovable. So she used buzzwords like financial abuse and gaslighting. She claimed I stole her company. She claimed my partner was my sugar mommy and that we were having an affair. She even doxed my partner, posting her full name and suggesting people let her know what they think of homewreckers. My partner started getting death threats. Her husband had to change their home phone number. Then came the lawsuit. X's father is wealthy and the type of guy who uses litigation as a hobby. He hired a shark of a lawyer who filed a suit claiming breach of verbal contract, claiming I promised her 50% equity, unjust enrichment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and constructive trust over the company assets. They demanded $5 million to settle. I was terrified. A lawsuit like that freezes everything. It scares off investors. It distracts from operations. I sat in my partner's office, head in my hands, apologizing for bringing this chaos into our lives. My partner just put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You didn't do this." Entitlement did. And we don't negotiate with terrorists. We lawyered up, hiring a firm that specializes in commercial litigation. The dirty tricks phase lasted 3 months. X's lawyer tried to get a temporary restraining order, TRO, against me to kick me out of my own apartment, claiming she felt unsafe because I knew the door code. The judge threw it out because I hadn't been near the apartment in weeks. I was sleeping in a hotel. But it still cost me $5,000 in legal fees to defend. Then she contacted our clients. She sent emails to our vendor list saying the company was under federal investigation for fraud. That was her biggest mistake. In the U.S., you can say a lot of nasty things in a breakup, but when you mess with a company's revenue, you cross into tortious interference. We enter the discovery phase. This is where both sides exchange evidence. Her lawyers demanded every email I'd ever sent and my partner's financial records. They tried to bury us in paperwork, but discovery goes both ways. We subpoenaed her texts and her communications with her father. My lawyer found gold. In a group chat with her bridesmaids, dated 2 weeks before the breakup, X had written, "I don't actually give SHD about the business. It's boring as hell. But once we're married, half is mine anyway. I just need to get that old BTCH out of the way so I can handle the optics. I want to be the face of the brand." Then another text to her mom, "I'm going to make him fire her. If he doesn't, I'll just make his life hell until he caves. He's weak. He'll do what I say." And the smoking gun regarding the fraud claims, an email to her dad. "We need to lie about the verbal contract. He never actually said I could have 50%. But who's going to prove that? Just scare him into paying." We had her admitting to conspiracy, to commit fraud and extortion. We schedule her deposition. For those who haven't been deposed, it's a room with a camera, a court reporter, and lawyers. You are under oath. Lying is perjury. My lawyer, let's call him David, sat her down. He played the nice guy for the first hour. He let her ramble about how much he contributed to the company. She lied through her teeth, claiming she designed the logo. We had the invoice from a freelancer who actually did it, and claiming she hired the staff. She had never interviewed anyone. Then David pulled out the text. He asked, "Ms. X, you just stated under oath that you were deeply involved in the business operations because you love the work. Is that correct?" She said yes. David slid the paper across the table. Can you read this text you sent on October 14th? She read it silently. Her face went gray. Read out loud, please, David said. She mumbled it. I don't actually give a SHD about the business. Asterisk. And this one, David said, sliding the email to her father. We need to lie about the verbal contract. Her lawyer immediately called for a break. They went out into the hall, and I could hear the shouting through the soundproof glass. When they came back in, her lawyer looked defeated. He said they would like to discuss a settlement. I broke my silence and said, No, we're not settling. My lawyer nodded and informed them we were countersuing for defamation per se regarding the lies told of vendors, tortious interference with business relations, and abuse of process. We also mentioned we would be submitting the deposition transcript to the district attorney regarding the perjury she just committed. X started crying real tears this time, wailing that she just wanted me to listen to her and that I chose my partner over her. I told her I chose integrity over manipulation. We didn't actually go to trial. Her father realized his daughter had perjured herself and that they were looking at a massive loss. They folded completely. The terms of the settlement were brutal for them. They had to pay my legal fees, which were over $80,000 at that point. She had to sign a retraction and apology that we could post on her social media. She is permanently banned from mentioning me, the company, or my partner ever again. If she violates the NDA, she owes us $100,000 per infraction. She moved out of the city shortly after. I heard from a mutual friend that her dad cut her off financially after the legal bill came in. She's currently working as a receptionist at a car dealership in Ohio. 6 months later, last night, was the Industry Awards Gala. We were nominated for Startup of the Year. I wore a tux. My partner wore a stunning gown, and her husband was there, beaming with pride. When they called our name, the feeling was indescribable. We walked up to the stage, and I looked out at the crowd. I thought about the late nights, the stress, and that $5,000 check. I took the microphone and thanked my team, but mostly I thanked my co-founder and partner. I said, people told me that business is just business, but it's not. It's about trust. It's about loyalty. And there is nobody I would rather be in the trenches with. My partner teared up. Later that night, at the after party, I checked my phone. I had a DM from a blocked number. It was just a link to the live stream of the awards. No text, just a link. I knew it was her. She was watching me win. She was watching the old woman she tried to banish standing next to me, holding the trophy she thought she was entitled to. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel sad. I just felt relieved. I realized that the red flags I ignored early on, the small jealousies, the entitlement, the need to be the center of attention, were not quirks. They were warnings. If you are building something, a business, a life, a dream, be very careful who you let into the foundation. Some people are bricks, helping you build. Others are just termites with good makeup. I deleted the message, took a sip of champagne, and went back to celebrate with the people who actually showed up. If you want to see more stories about how to legally destroy narcissists who try to steal your life's work, hit that subscribe button. It's cheaper than a retainer and more satisfying than an ex's apology.